Hello and welcome to our tarot reading for the week of June the 18th through the 24th, 2023. Now, one of the big things that's happened this week astrologically, we have a new moon in Gemini, okay, which is very good for new projects and things that are surrounding either our communication or can have to do with travel. That's all very, very good for that. We've also got Saturn turning retrograde. Now, if you're in the Vedic system, it's in Aquarius. If you are in the tropical Western system, it's turned retrograde in Pisces. So this retrograde is going to go on until early November 2024. So the beginning of the retrograde and the end of it always tends to be the most challenging point, because the retrograde brings us to, it kind of brings, it can create frustrations. It can bring things to a standstill. It can make us go back over territory that we thought we were done with. So there is going to be a bit of that energy going on for this year. That said, Saturn does not have to be a negative thing. I often find that I like, when Shani or Saturn appears in as an influence, I mean, it can frustrate some things, but on the whole, it generally allows you to deal with something in a more complete and more satisfying way that makes something like really, the lesson really learned, the thing really finished. So I'm not really opposed to Saturn energy in this case. Now, what I've done this week, I've been doing the cartouche readings. But what I'm doing here is I've added a tarot card, sometimes several. Again, I flip them and then I just see what, how many pop out. If like 10 pop out, I don't take 10, but we are letting things pop out here because, I want to show, I'm thinking I want these to elucidate the cartouche cards, and then that way we have a much clearer and cleaner picture of what's going on. So if you're not familiar with the way I do readings, I do these astrological spreads. So everything is according to astrological house here. So our first house over here is nice. This is our house. This is our Aries house. This is the house of the identity, the personality, of how you interact with the world and how you express yourself. And these are two really nice cards because you have the Ankh, which is, that's the love of life card. I mean, that's the passion. That's Ankh is it shows that you're showing the face of the world of somebody who loves life, who is happy, and who is impassioned about what it is that they're doing. And with it, you have the Fool. So the Fool is about being free. I mean, this to me just says, I'm happy and I'm free. Okay, so that's at least the face that you're putting onto the world. Whether that's entirely only is what you feel or not, you know how it is. We present one face and we may not feel something else. But this is definitely a good sign of kind of coming to terms with our identity and who we are, and perhaps freeing ourselves, being that we're focused now more on the things that we care about. It's not. We feel more, I'll use the word authentic, like in the space that we're in. We feel more like we are, the face that we're presenting aligns more with where we really want to be. And this may involve taking some risks, but, there are some risks that are, in this particular case, it looks like it's a risk that's good to take. And in fact, in the money house here, the second house of Taurus, which is finance, we have the Scarab with the Three of Swords. So for some people watching this, this could mean a new job. It could mean leaving an old job or separating from something, because there's definitely the sense of, some kind of a partnership or something. And again, this is in the area of finance, something coming to an end and a new beginning coming after that ending. So the Scarab here, Scarab always represents new beginnings. And, with this ending here, there could be, Three of Swords can bring a feeling or a sense of isolation. It can make us feel like we're alone in something, or it can make us feel that we are, there could be a sadness about, loss of, loss of your coworkers, loss of a camaraderie, loss of a particular type of relationship. But ultimately, we'll look at some of these other houses here, but this does point to a new beginning. And I do feel like it's one of those things that it's time to sever ties somewhere and move on financially. Okay, that's definitely indicated. Sorry for the coughing this morning. It's a few allergies today. Okay, so third house is the house of Gemini. This is the house of communication, short journeys, as we indicated. There's a new moon in Gemini right now, and we have the pyramid card with the star. So yeah, the pyramid has to do with being tested or feeling tested. This would be in the area of communications. If you happen to have your own business, this could also be connected to that as well. Sometimes siblings as well. This is also the house of sibling relationships. So you can see where it resonates. But there's this idea of a test, and with the star, there's a certain amount of vulnerability here, okay? We feel like there's, we may have just come out of something that maybe has left us on shaky ground or a little bit traumatized. It's important to remember that in the tarot, before the star is the Tower card. So oftentimes we've had this kind of tower moment that kind of shakes everything down and shows us the truth. So this actually is a card of potential trust and hope. I mean, it's a very, very good card. But I feel like here with Pyramid, there's this sense of, this can also be what leaves you vulnerable. You know, you're kind of in this new space. And, so I think you're hopeful about where you're going. And actually, Pyramid would suggest that you will get to where you're going to in the end. You just need to hang tight. So, so see where that resonates for you. Fourth house we have is the house has to do with your actual home environment. It could have to do with your mother. For some of you that might apply. And it's interesting here because, and also, okay, I should add, fourth house also tends to have to do with our sense of personal security, the sense of feeling, quote unquote, at home with ourselves. So we have Sirius here. So Sirius is, this is a card of endurance. Like there's some kind of it's like you can feel, the security can be attained, but there's a certain amount of work that has to go into it. There's a sense of, this is a strong Aquarian energy, so it's very much about thinking outside the box, trying to look at maybe new ways to do things if you're finding that, there's a struggle with the older ways. Now, if we look at the tarot cards that we have with it, we have the Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords, of course, has to do with mental stress. You see the person here who's kind of, being kept up at night, worrying about something. And you've also got this Two of Pentacles, which is keeping a lot of balls in the air, keeping a lot of plates spinning, or having to make, being somewhat indecisive about something. But I often find that this is the card of the multitasker. And that makes sense with this because the Sirius card is about having to put the hard work in, having to do, put the elbow grease in. So you may be juggling a lot of different things, and you may be worried about whether or not, whether what you're doing is enough or whether or not you can keep doing what you're doing. I mean, there definitely seems to be an issue of, physical stamina and strength as well with this. Perhaps this is why this ending over here might be considered. But in any case, this, you could be, having some struggles with the environment. Now, the good news about this is whenever I see the Nine of Swords, I always feel, some people take the Nine of Swords as a very, very difficult card. I mean, yes, it can mean grief. It can mean the kind of things that do legitimately bother us and make us feel stressed out. But oftentimes it's stuff it's more things that we're more worried about what could happen than what's actually going on. The reality is probably far less grim than what our mind conjures up. So that's really the message here. So there's a sense of, you're still trying to figure out where you are here. You may need to look at something a different way. This could be with regard to your physical home or with just your sense of what you need to feel stable and secure. So, and for some of you, this could have to do literally with somebody's mother. Maybe there's a worry about their physical health or something like that, or their physical capability, even if it's not health per se. But there's definitely a sense of having to juggle a few things, but it seems like most of the things that you're afraid might happen probably won't. Okay, so now we're to the fifth house. It's interesting. This is the house of Leo. This was the house of Cancer. This is Leo. And this is the house of, if you have children, that would apply here. This is also the house of creative projects, and what you do for leisure time, and also love affairs with people. So that's kind of the more or less what this house covers. And it's interesting that you have Strength, which is the card of Leo in the house of Leo. Okay, and you have it with the Earth. So this is about stability. For some of you, this could be money coming in through writing projects or through some kind of creative project. Perhaps I say writing because I also write, but it's but there's this idea of or really it could be that either through your children or through some kind of a project you're working on, that this has a grounding influence. I mean, Earth is a nice card to see. It does bring stability and security. It's planting seeds. It's things that take time as well. It's not something that's going to necessarily happen overnight, but there is some potential, at least for some of you, with some of your creative work, to actually bring something in the way of an income. Now, when we have it with strength, I mean, strength is definitely, we have the woman here, closing the lion's jaws, and she's the woman in white, and she's got the leminsket like over her head, and which is like kind of a sign of infinity. It's the infinity sign is always about finding that place. We always talk about things on a spectrum, and we say, well, which side of the spectrum are we on, or should we be in the middle? And the leminsket is actually where we really should be. We should actually be kind of moving, kind of in this fashion, between the two. There's always going to be kind of a, not a here's 5 on this side and here's 5 on this side kind of balancing. It's just more the way that you flow between, the two extremes of things that go on. But strength is about, about having strength, or about finding your strength in this place. So again, we're talking about children, we're talking about creative projects, and also potentially leisure. It may also just be a sign that you need to ground out and take some time out for yourself to regain your strength. But ultimately, the presence of this card seems to suggest that, again, whatever difficulties perhaps you're dealing with here, or vulnerabilities that you feel over here, it's not, you have the strength to deal with it. I mean, this is telling you to have courage, and that this may be a way or an outlet for, dealing with or expressing what it is that you're dealing with. Okay, so the 6th house has to do with, it's a house of worry. It's a house associated with Virgo. It's also the house of service to others. If you have pets, it may have to do with your pets. And it's also a house dealing with health issues. Okay, now I try not to deal with health. If I see things that talk a little bit about it, technically as tarot readers, we're really not supposed to address health issues. I don't want to give anybody any kind of false information about that. And this doesn't necessarily have to do with health. You can see how it resonates. But we have Urias here. So Urias is about, usually Urias shows up when, there could be some things going on. Urias usually comes up when we're hit with unexpected stuff, or something is not working out the way that we thought it was going to. And this may be where the worry piece comes in. But the other thing about Urias is, that usually, things are actually usually better than they appear to be when Urias comes up. So this is not a case of, you're being hit with all this stuff and all of it's bad. There seems like there's more going on in the background that you need to pay attention to. But Urias also, I think there's a very strong instinct connected with this. Now you have it with the 7 of Cups. So 7 of Cups is sometimes when something is either delusional or dreamy, or it just seems like there's too many options and it's not clear. It's not clear what the reality is. It's not clear which way to go. In which case Urias would be saying, and this could have to do with a job specifically, or it could even do with making a decision about a health matter. But there's this idea that, there may be something like, if you're looking at a number of opportunities, there could be something unexpected that comes in that's not maybe, within your purview right now. You may not be thinking about it, but ultimately this is something that, it's usually like a surprise that comes up, and it's usually a good surprise. And also this you may be concerned here about other people, or about, there's just a sense of kind of worrying about something in the general environment. But ultimately, it's a matter of needing to just get clear on what the facts are, and they may present themselves and not be quite what you think they are. Okay. 7th house has to do with relationships. And, okay, so we have fire here, and we have it with the 8 of Swords and the King of Cups. Okay, so King of Cups is usually a pretty good love card, although the King of Cups could be somebody who, is an emotional, is a lover, but I don't know. The King of Cups sometimes has this element to him like he's sitting on the water, but there's I don't know, there's almost an attachment there. I have seen this as a card of the person who heals others but doesn't heal themselves. It's like they may be too projected out, looking at other people's emotions rather than their own. King of Cups can also indicate somebody who's a water sign. So perhaps for some people, this could be a water sign person coming in. But for others, this could be a fire sign, because sometimes fire is, fire, this also can have, the elements can also have to do with signs. But you have somebody, there's just somebody's stuck thinking over and over about somebody. Okay, this is literally about being stuck in the mind. And as we see with the woman here, her feet are not bound. She probably very easily could, I think what there's one reader I follow, I think it's the AE Reiki Tarot, where she will say, she calls this tissue paper torture, and I think she heard that from somewhere else too. It's, again, this is the mind. Just like we had said over here, this is the mind that plays tricks. So it does seem like there could be some kind of a new connection here, but there's a need to get unstuck from something. And fire to me here has to do with purifying. You maybe if you're in a relationship that is, that you don't feel is going anywhere, this may be a time to purify things, to cut bait, or at least to try to figure out what the problem is and try to solve it. Okay. Fire is about burning up and getting rid of the rubbish that no longer works. Because it's leaving you feeling stuck. And, and again, for some people, perhaps there is another possibility of love, but you may be stuck with your mind somewhere else. So, again, this may apply differently for different people, since this is a general reading, but there's definitely the sense of needing to, purify, get rid of what doesn't work, get out of your head, and perhaps, needing to look for, where that love might be. Okay, because it may actually be right in front of you. Okay, 8th house. Now, 8th house is the house of transformation. And in the 8th house, we have Seth. Now, with Seth in Cartouche, you always draw a second card. Seth, of course, has to do with setbacks, problems, obstacles. There's a strong Saturnian influence in a more negative sense with this card. And this is in the house of Scorpio. This is the 8th house. Yeah, this was the house of Libra. This is Scorpio. And so this has to do with transformations, and sometimes with other people's money as well. And I'm mentioning that for a reason. So this would indicate difficulties with transformation. And I think that's borne out by other parts of the reading. We see this potential separation from a job. We see this vulnerability. We see this worry about our stability. We see worries over here about unexpected things that we don't really know where they're going to lead. So yeah, so there's elements of this time, this transformation, that are not, that are problematic to us. We may be frustrated. We may be facing obstacles. We may not see the way forward. But you have the wing disc. So when the wing disc and Seth are together, this literally cancels the other card out. So the idea is that whatever obstacles you face now, again, you have the strength here. You'll be able to overcome them. So don't worry too much about that. If you're facing obstacles, you may just need to go with the flow. Our 2 extra cards here, if I can get my hands on them, we have the Page of Swords and we have the 5 of Swords. Okay, now Page of Swords sometimes has to do with somebody who's watching, maybe somebody who doesn't always have your best interest, maybe somebody who's a gossip. And with the 5 of Swords, that can bring quarrels, it can bring jealousy, rivalry. So it's quite possible that there's something like this that is going on for you. And as you see here, there's like this fight where you see the people walking away in this particular card. It's almost like there's some kind of an argument or a conflict or a rivalry that's just not even worth putting your energy into. And sometimes, potentially, Page of Swords sometimes has to do with contracts. So to me, seeing it in this element may also be saying, watch out when it comes to other people's money, watch out for what you might be signing off on. That may apply for some people. But yeah, this is also a card of restriction. Sometimes it's our own mental restrictions too. Like we've seen that in a couple of places here where we've seen mental restriction. But there is definitely the sense that there may be a concern about, somebody on the outside who may not have your best interests. But nonetheless, again, with the wing disc, whatever this is, I feel like you're just going to make a choice to just say, you know what, I'm not engaging with this. I'm walking away. If this is a problem with the relationship, there's a need to set the record straight, or maybe to get rid of some people who are not, who you may learn don't have your, they may. It sometimes is not always a case of just somebody doing something nefarious and evil or terrible. It may just be somebody, it could be just somebody who has a jealousy, or somebody who just may have an agenda. Like they may think that you should be following a certain course, and if you don't follow that course, they could say, oh, I think, it's terrible that this person's doing B and not A. It can just be even things like that. But there's just the sense that there's people maybe who you thought either understood you or had your back, and then you may be kind of like, maybe they don't. So there may be some time to think about, where you just want to cut bait, and, not get involved with people who are either going to compete with you or try to make you feel lesser in some way, or who are jealous of you. People who are jealous of you, that's their problem. They need to work on that themselves. Okay, ninth house. This is the house of Sagittarius. And it's also the house of long distance travel, higher education, these things that tend to be associated with, with Jupiter. And you've got air. So for some of you, this could mean a long journey. You may be taking a long trip someplace, which is nice. I'm speaking of jealousy, I'm a little jealous. I wish I was getting out of the country at this point. But, this is, so, you've got this, you definitely have this trip. It doesn't necessarily have to be out of the country. It's just a long trip. You have it with the devil. So the devil could, sometimes the devil has to do with, kicking back and enjoying some of the sensual pleasures of life. I don't always see the devil as a bad card. But there's definitely also the possibility here of being tied to something, or being either tied to something or blocked by something that, like an attachment that you feel you can't get rid of, but you probably should. So there's a kind of a theme of that here, again, looking at situations. I mean, for some of you, this may have to do with schooling, like, maybe you're tied to, I don't know, college debt. Maybe you're tied to something that is connected to that. But there's a need to basically free yourself of something. For some of you, you may be taking a trip literally to free yourself of something. The devil's also strong Capricorn energy. So in some cases, this may be just, there may be some kind of connection here with somebody who is a Capricorn. But I don't know. I just feel like there's this need to, since it's coming up everywhere else in the reading, I feel like there's this need to break an attachment. Now, the 10th house is Capricorn, and this has to do with your career, your reputation, the father. It is Father's Day. And yeah, you've got the twins here. So, I mean, yeah, literally could just mean you're out celebrating Father's Day with somebody, if you're in that, if your father's there and having that situation. But oftentimes because this has more to do with your career and your reputation. So the twins may be about collaborating with somebody, or going into kind of a joint business venture with someone, working with someone. You've also got the Six of Swords. So either for some of you, this could be something over water or overseas. But there is this sense of moving away. I mean, if it's not a physical, actual, literal move or relocation, it may just have to do with moving, basically it's the card after this one. So you're moving from that into calmer waters. So I feel like whatever's going on with career, whatever this ending might be over here, you're moving on to something new. And I feel like this is something you may be doing in partnership with somebody else. There's some sense of working together, to build something. Again, this is more in the career realm rather than the job realm, because sometimes we have a job and that we don't consider that job our career. It's just something we do for money, right? So this is about career. This is about something that you're building. The 11th house this is the Aquarius house. This is the house of friendship, networks, organizations. Now we have Isis with the Four of Cups. So there's a sense here, Isis has to do with being patient. Four of Cups may be that we're looking at a particular relationship or situation, and we're not looking at what's here, at what we have. We're looking kind of away, and we have the arms are crossed. It's more like we're discontented with what we don't have rather than looking at what we have. So while we are also talking about purifying and getting rid of people who maybe are cutting ties with people who maybe don't have our best interest. This is also about, reconsidering and retaining certain ties. Maybe there's some people who you are maybe feeling a little too critical of, and maybe you need to think about what's going on in their lives, or what they're actually bringing to the table for you in the relationship. And it may be more than maybe you give it credit for at times. So there's kind of a little bit of both. There's evaluating both the good and bad in relationships. Although Isis kind of, I feel, says, taking care of yourself is the most important thing. So definitely there's this need to take time out to care for yourself, and to a certain degree to put yourself first. We often think about friendship as being something that's sacrificing, and sometimes it is. For the people we're really close to, but sometimes we may be making sacrifices, you want to make sure you're making sacrifices for, people who would make those sacrifices for you too. I mean, you don't, we tend to think of that as being selfish, but it's not always selfish. Sometimes it's self-preservation. So Isis is saying to take that into account, but there may be some situations that you need to think about in a broader way. Like there may be more good in the situation than you're seeing. Okay, when we get to the 12th house here, this is your house of what you're not presenting to people, what's unconscious, and perhaps what you're afraid of. Can have to do with long distance travel too, or rather foreign travel, but I don't know that I see that element here. Lotus, this is the idea of stress on the mind. And that stress seems to come from, we have the Empress and we have the Devil. So death has to do with changes, with transformations. And also with the Empress, we're worried about, the new seeds we have planted, with the things that we are, the new things that we're trying to do. There's a worry there, perhaps about, whether or not they'll fail, or whether or not what you're transitioning into is the right thing. But Lotus is basically saying, this is more of this Nine of Swords kind of stuff. It's more of this worry rather than something that's really going to happen. Okay, so our overall card is Saturn again. Ta is Capricorn energy, and it's, Ta is a good card. I mean, it's a card of building something, of the fact that you are it's like you're building an edifice or a structure. And, so this is like whatever this new situation is, it's like a house that's being built. It's something that's building up. There is a sense here of wanting to be recognized for things that we do, because we have the Six of Wands. But we also have the Seven of Swords here. So we need to watch out for sabotage, although I feel like in this case, this may be more self-sabotage than anything else. I feel like, Seven of Swords doesn't have to be a bad card. I think it can be a card also of negotiation. If we're being told to think outside the box like we are here, I think the Seven of Swords may mean more like, there may be something that you don't want to approach directly. Negotiation may be a better way to deal with things. Or, in kind of the salesman kind of way, it's like the kinds of ways in which you barter, or, play games in a way. I mean, playing games, I know there tends to be a very, very negative association with that. But sometimes we gain more by, kind of going over and renegotiating with somebody, rather than like a direct, it's going to be this way or this way. Like sometimes that thinking back and that diplomatic way of doing things is the better way to go. So, but with this, I mean, we could feel sabotaged by the Saturn energy too. I mean, we could feel like we're trying to do something and we can't move ahead. But, and the Six of Wands, though, does ultimately promise victory, and it does promise recognition. So I just feel like right now, things may be a little bit unsettled for people, that there seems to be a lot of changes going on, and it's really not clear yet, how these are going to manifest. There's some anxiety, or vulnerability around that. But I feel overall that that's because you are in the building phase. Like there is stuff that's happening, and, not everything is happening all at once or right now. It's like you have to, you can't just throw a house up in a day. It's like you have to build a solid foundation and make sure everything's secure. And that's definitely very Saturnian in the way that it, at least astrologically, the way that it plays out. Now I pulled two other additional cards for us. And one is from the Gateway Oracle, and one is from the Essential Oil Oracle. And the first card we have from the gateway is flying free. So this is literally about, it's kind of back to the Fool over here. This is literally about, you know, this is, you know, you don't need to do things the old way. You are free, and you need, you know, and you should, you know, exercise your creativity and your innovation and, you know, find a new way to do things, find your own way to do things. And at the same time, we have the grounding card. The key word here is rooted. The trigger statement is I am somewhere else. The true statement is right here, right now, everything is perfect. Allow your energy to shift to the material plane where it is needed to help you complete what you have set out to do. So there's kind of this thing of you want to dream big and you want to, you know, this also can be about dreaming big. You want to think about new possibilities, which is, which again is another potential element here. I'm seeing that through here, but I'm also seeing this worry about, you know, we're seeing all these attachments in here, and it's saying you can free yourself of those, but also keep your feet on the ground in terms of what your plan is. I mean, you know, flying free doesn't necessarily mean that we kind of, you know, let go of all sense and throw caution to the wind. There's still a need to really, it's just freeing you're freeing yourself more from the mind. I mean, I'm seeing so much mind energy here. You're freeing yourself from the mind, and you're getting yourself back more to the earth and to where, you know, to where you're really at and the place that you are, and trying not to be somewhere that you're not. Okay, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.